Yep, 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 yep.
Yes, it's the Finnish football show. Thanks for joining me, Mark Wiltshire from Explore Finland. Also with Mark from FC Suomi.
There you go. Not Escape FC.
It hasn't been that long. It hasn't been that long ago since we talked, and already I've got it wrong. I put it down to heavy Christmas and New Year celebrations. I guess we'll leave all this in.
It's been a tough season. the festive season.
Yeah, tough festive season for the Finnish football show. This is a very, very quick episode of Finnish Football Shorts. Mark and I thought we'd get together ahead of the Dubai Friendlies. Although whether it's plural or not, I think we'll talk about that shortly. Taking place this week, Finland are out there. They have a training camp and practice games. But at first, I thought, Mark, I'd just ask you, what's the kind of history of this training camp?
So it's been up and running for about, is it 5 years or 4 years? How old am I? Dear me, something like that. The last time that Finland had a winter schedule that was away from Abu Dhabi was when they took a 3-2 win against Trinidad and Tobago. That was I think that was about 2012, 13. Can't quite remember. But ever since then, they've been spending 2 weeks roughly at the start of January at a warm weather training camp in Abu Dhabi. I think it's part of the kind of whole Qatar World Cup bid process. It's to try and get, so Finland aren't the only ones to go down there. There's Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Iceland. Almost all of the kind of like winter leagues up north send a squad down there to do warm weather training and make use of the facilities and the crowds and the rest of it.
Yeah, I was first aware of this a couple of years ago, I guess, after we started the Finnish football show, and there were games against. Well, I certainly remember a game against Sweden, anyway, and then last year there were games against Iceland. What's this week? There's a game scheduled against Jordan.
Yes.
Is that the only game?
It's the only game scheduled, so they're there until the 15th, which is next Sunday, or a week Sunday from now. And what they want to do is do one on the Thursday, which is the 11th of January. The usual kickoff is about 4 p.m. Finnish time, so you might want to clock off work early.
Where will it be shown? Is it like only on Veikkaus TV or something like that?
It's Veikkaus TV or Fanseat are usually the ones that they reach out to. But funnily enough, they almost always kind of like do some extra promotion around the time. And I think if you're either Veikkaus or Fanseat, this is kind of like a pain in the backside because they haven't got any time to run any promotions or ads to say that you're the national team game's coming up. So yeah, it's usually on those two outfits where you can watch the game. And the commentary is always quite a laugh because you get you don't get the kind of standard commentators. You get I can't remember who did it last year, but there's always a fair bit of humor about the guys because there's always like maybe 20 or 30 people in the crowd, most of which are pretending desperately to not be half cut because it's in Dubai, and most fail.
and that doesn't include the players, although sometimes the games are not the most entertaining. But they're not the highest quality. I think it's the middle of the pre-season of the closed season in Finland, and I guess for me the last couple of years have been pretty tricky times for the Hukkajat. But maybe this year, on the end of a really positive end to 2017, maybe we'll see something a bit different on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There's lots of reasons to be optimistic, and it goes kind of in both directions. So I think there's about 5 or 6 players that are knocking on for 20 caps plus. So Juhani Ojala's going. Tim Spav's captain the team. There's a lot of sort of experienced players that have been involved in the squads that have are unbeaten in 5 games. So there's a good amount of experience there, and then you got to remember if you think about Robe Riski, so he's not going to be there this time around because he's in Austria trying to avoid the most inevitable relegation in Austrian league history. But it was 2 years ago when he got that goal against, I think it was the Swedish team, and that really kind of put him back into the sort of national discussion about for Finland. So it was on the back of that he got himself sorted out and back to ASICO. He got invited into the national team a couple of times. It put him back into like a place where he could make transfers.
Yeah, so a bit of a shop window there, and as you say, there's quite a lot of younger or less tested players in there.
I think there's 7 players that haven't kicked a ball for Finland before, and there's a couple in there that I look at it, I think might not have played a professional game yet. At least certainly like Hugo Cato is the Arsenal youth keeper, who's obviously promising kid. I don't think he's been anywhere near Arsenal's starting level. I think he went out on loan, but I'm not sure if he's got any kind of professional minutes under his belt. Apart from that, Juho Pirtijoki from GIF Sundsvall in Sweden. I also don't think, I might be kind of pushing out the extremities of my knowledge, which is one of the good things about Abu Dhabi, but I don't think he's played professionally either just yet. If he has, it's kind of like it'll only be a handful of games. So there's a as always there's a fair few of the uninitiated in there, but then you've got guys like Jussi Tuominen and Puru Soiri, who we think now like Puru Soiri is like, wow, he's amazing, he scored 2 goals, he had 3 great games, but he's still roughly only had 3 games for Finland. Yeah. So this is a good opportunity for him and Glenn Kamara. We've been talking about Glenn Kamara for about 2 years. He's got 1 cap, and that was in the Estonia game. So he's going to benefit greatly from playing alongside Spar, for example.
Yeah, what do you think with the team lineup is likely to be? I know it's difficult because it's such a different squad to the previous competitive games. But normally you have 2 matches and there's a bit of a change around between the teams in the 2 matches. But this time there's just the 1 game. Do you think they're going to try and give everyone some minutes, or
they usually do? I mean, a lot depends on how they organize the second game. So if it's Thursday for Jordan, they'll be looking to try and do something either Saturday or Sunday for the second game. And if they don't get to book a second opponent, then they'll probably have to use as much as they can, straight off, like in that 1 game. So they'll probably stuff the squad and make they've done it before where they've made 11 changes on 45 minutes. And I hope to God we don't get into that, because that just kills the game stone dead.
Doesn't it? I remember watching England back in the day, and Sven-Göran Eriksson would do the same thing. You'd have 7 or 8 different players on the pitch by the end of it, and no, he maybe learned something from it. I certainly didn't. It's not fun to watch. Do you think it's a bit strange that the Saturday game is not yet confirmed?
Yeah, I think it's really, really unusual, particularly because we know Sweden. Sweden are already out there. Denmark are already out there. Iceland are already out there. We know. I think there was a the Gulf Cup just finished. So there's a bunch of teams that have got a squad kind of still together, that are in the vicinity and sort of ready to play. So it is really weird that we haven't been able to put something down. Although maybe one of the other things is, I think it was last year or the year before, we booked Oman to play, and then they dropped out at the last minute, and I think we brought in Slovenia or something as a quick replacement, because they usually do 1 European team and then 1 either African or Middle Eastern team. So they might be a bit kind of wary about committing to a friendly with other local sides, because we've had our fingers burnt a little bit before. I mean, that being said, it's still what is it, next week? It's kind of unheard of for a national team to. Yeah, I mean, even for a training camp to be this close to kickoff and not have the opponent.
Yeah, when it's now Sunday, the 7th, and you were saying they're flying home next Sunday, the 15th. So or 14th is next Sunday. So there's not that much time to knock it together. I guess that if people want to get an update, they should. Maybe keep their eyes on fcsuomi.com or even check out the Palloliitto website just to see what's going on before the games kick off on Thursday.
Yeah, so the Palolito website's been redone. It's really tricky to find information like solid information from there because it looks good actually. So it's a lot about like organized football in Finland. So it's not so much about the Hukajat, even though they've got their own section. In my website, there's a small introduction to Jordan, and there'll be a match preview before it goes up, and the whole squad is there with what I think is the latest number of like caps and goals that each player's got for Finland. But even that, it's like it's really weird. It's the same way that we've not got an opponent. The Palolito don't seem to be updating like the numbers of international caps and goals for the players, which is like odd.
Yeah, it's just one place that you should be able to go to just to get the definitive information. You think that might be the FA, but not in this case.
No.
And you mentioned one or two players just now. If somebody's listening to this, going to watch the game on Thursday, anyone else aside from who you mentioned being very inexperienced, but maybe people that may play on Thursday that we should keep an eye open for?
So Joona Toivio's he's in the squad. So he was a couple of years ago. He was a stable fixture alongside Moisander at centre back. He's fallen out of favour in the national team, and he's out of favour in Molde in Norway. So he needs. I think he's still under contract, so he's kind of okay. But he needs a new club, and he needs to put himself about, play a good game, a good 90 minutes. And actually, Belvas is also now kind of without a club. I think Hoiko didn't renew his contract, so he'll be in the market for a new club. And Riku Riski is another one who was part of the squad like under Miksu back 2015. He scored 4 times for Finland. He's not got anywhere near the squad in the last couple of years. Because he's quick and he's dynamic and he can score goals. So you'd be looking at Belvas, Riski, and Joona Toivio to put in some good performances. You'd kind of hope. I've been waiting for Tim Väyrynen to score for Finland and to put in a good performance, and he's in the squad now. So I would hope he also gets himself on the score sheet.
Yeah, there's only 10 goals between all of them, international goals between all of them, and Riku Riski's got 4 of those. I guess I should just give a shout out to Joel Mero. I have to keep batting the Asiko line. He joined midway through last season, and he's been really steady. He looks like he's going to make that centre back place his own at Asiko, I hope. So good luck to Joel if you get on the pitch out there.
He was one of the core talents for Finland. Like about 3 or 4 years ago, he was a teenager, and I think he went to Borussia Mönchengladbach into their youth academy setup, and he was doing well until he picked up. I don't know if it was a cruciate, but some big injury that kept him out for a while, and that was like it was a real blow for the kid, because I think he's definitely one for the future, and I think he should come good in a similar way. There's actually the shades of Juhani Ojala in him there, because Juhani Ojala was the same thing. He went out, I think he was in Russia, got really badly injured. Asiko picked him up. He played a stunking season, and then went to Häcken in Sweden, and now he's like ever present for Häcken in the Swedish top flight. So I think Joel can hopefully do the same.
Yeah, I hope so too. We'll I think get back together with Rich for a full Finnish football show, perhaps in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll look back at whatever goes on out in Dubai, maybe have a bit of a news catch up, and perhaps preview Suomen Cup, because that all starts to kick off towards the end of January. So that maybe would be a good time for us to get our heads together.
Yeah, what's left of it? Yeah.
Okay.
But no,
you mean Suomen Cup?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's what's left of it. But actually, this is where many of the bigger clubs actually start their participation. So I've got 2 or 3 Asiko games booked in, and also it's the 10th anniversary of the Asiko Kloppit this January. So I think the away game in Kokkola is planned as a bit of a celebration. So there may be a little bus load or 2 heading up there for that, which is kind of strange to have a celebration inside in a sports hall where you're standing on the touchline. But we'll go there and make some noise anyway.
It sounds like the perfect place for it.
Okay, Mark. Thanks a lot for this, and we'll get together again in 2 weeks or so with Rich and look back at what actually happens in Dubai. And just as a reminder, the game kicks off on Thursday the 11th at 4 p.m. Finnish time. Fan Seat or Veikkaus TV, probably the places to find it. And thanks for listening, and we'll be back again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yep, 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 yep.